Welcome to the MSDW podcast. I'm Jason Gumpert, editor at MS Dynamics World. On this episode, we are talking about what it really takes to control content in Business Central with a focus on record to report and the needs of the Office of the CFO. My guests on this episode are Patrick Nguyen and Bob Monio of SignUp Software, and we start by discussing some core challenges in the context of BC. SignUp Software is the sponsor of this episode, and my guests explain typical requirements they see related to auditability, accounting, and analysis. We also discuss how to best understand what Business Central can do out of the box and when an organization needs to look for more specialized content management capabilities. We also look at SharePoint Online, which has grown in popularity as a strategic component of more BC solutions, and Bob and Patrick explain the launch of SignUp Software's ContentGate for BC and how it works with SharePoint Online. Finally, my guests tell us about the team's plans for Directions North America 2025, including their pre-event and some of the educational content they will be providing there. All right. Well, Patrick, Bob, welcome to both of you. Thanks for being here for this conversation today. Why don't we start with some introductions? Patrick, welcome to the podcast as I think a first-time guest. Can you tell us a little about yourself?
Thank you, Jason. And yes, my name is Patrick Nguyen. I'm a senior partner sales executive here at SignUp Software. Been in the software industry for about 23 years, of which 17 of that has been in the content or document management, business process automation space. So I do know a lot about content management and document management as we discuss further in this conversation.
Excellent. Well, glad to have you here. And Bob, welcome back.
Yes, welcome and to all of you. And thank you very much for allowing me to join you once again. Patrick, glad you're on here with me, being a subject matter expert in this space like you are. I manage our sales in the SMB market space, which focuses on the Business Central tool set from Microsoft. And I'm here to not only support what's being discussed, but also talk about some things we've got coming up here in the very near future at Directions. So thanks for having me here, Jason.
Yeah, great point, Bob. And we'll definitely be talking about that because it's a really interesting time of the year, I guess you'd say, and in that sense, and a lot of technology updates to talk about, a lot of ideas to talk about here too. And we wanted to get into one big concept to really kick things off, and that's record to report. It's a term and maybe a concept that I think I know a lot of the building blocks on, but it's not something personally that I've really talked about a lot. So I really appreciate if you could give us a bit more of a definition, a setup of how you view, how SignUp views record to report.
Sure, I'll be happy to provide that, and then Patrick can add some color to that too. This is an area that for an organization, especially in the finance organization, it's a very critical space. It involves the ability to create various types of reporting that are necessary to discuss the health and welfare of the organization, really its financial performance. And what you mean by record is you're talking about actual business records that the company has that are summarized, that are understood, that they're taken and interpreted, and then they're produced in a report format that the market or others who are following the company can understand and see how well the company is doing, both internally as well as also externally. And as we look at it, we see this as a process that companies go through. And we want to make sure that they're able to do this process effectively. And as you know, we're operating the Office of the CFO within Business Central. And we know that content under control provides the most robust capability for the organization to be able to facilitate that process so that individuals who are putting this together have what they need. And what we're doing is we're bringing to market here at Directions, which is something we're going to talk about here shortly, a tool that allows us to help that organization put their content under control so that it can contribute to their record to report process. And record report is, a terminology, Jason, that person in the office of the CFO, whether you're a controller or the CFO, they understand what that means. But to a person on the outside, yes, it can be something that's relatively new. So I'm glad you're asking me about it because we feel it's a critical component to the welfare and well-being, that the office of the CFO has to have. And we're glad we can help contribute to that.
Yeah, to add on to what Bob is saying, record to report, there's things such as that are critical to whether it's month-end close or year-end close documentation that the office of the CFO, executive management team wants to take a look at, and content related to these reports and to these month-end or annual closes. That's where our ContentGate solution really gives you the capability to access these documents and in content really easily, where things are collated together, matched up to reports that you have, whether it's financial reports or think about the other areas in other groups within the organization, different departments, whether it's production process or a job. If you're a service organization and you have jobs and you have documents and content related to different jobs that you're working on or processes and procedures, certainly ContentGate brings that all together. And think about audits as well. Being in compliant with different audits, government entities and audits you go through, whether it's an annual accounting audit where you need to be able to furnish documents and content to your auditors. ContentGate gives you a easy to search and retrieve and collating documents together so you can get them to your auditors, whether it's an accounting audit or some other type of audit that you have based on your business.
All right, excellent. Well, thanks for all that context. And I wanted to maybe go back to a bit more context when it comes to Business Central specifically, right? Because some of these capabilities you're talking about, there's an element that Business Central, for our BC listeners out there, that BC itself can handle when it comes to content management and records, obviously, and reporting, and some of the ability to bring those materials sort of back to the fore when they're needed. But it has its limits, right? So the question is sort of, how do you sort of describe the out of the box versus the dedicated content management story in the context of a product like BC?
Jason, you hit on a key word there, right? Limitations. And there's definitely limitations within Business Central and what you could store and manage. You store and manage things based on transactions, based on screens that you're at. But what if you have documents that you need to link and tie across different business units, different entities, different departments, different processes within your organization? Things within Business Central, sure, great. You can store things within Business Central, but how do you link the documents together, right? That you need to share amongst different transactions, different groups, departments. And that's where a content management system like ContentGate really comes into play and brings value to the organization, is that you can link, let's say, for instance, it could be a project that you're working on for a client. Let's call it project 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You may have contracts associated with this project. You may have, work orders. You may have purchase orders, different invoices, different shipments, and what have you. And for a process, you can also have customer invoices, customer POs. So think about being able to collate all these documents that are related to this project in one central view, one simple view, versus having to go to multiple different screens within Business Central to access all the documents. Being able to access it in one single point of truth in one simple view makes it very powerful for an organization, streamline the process, saves you a ton of time and effort to look for documents within Business Central when you could, manage it through our ContentGate solution with one simple view and one simple search.
And I'd like to add something to that too, because I think it's also important to point out that, content itself does take up storage. And one of the things that I know I've heard over my many years in this channel is that the cost of storage when you're working with Business Central, especially when it's not something that is structured, really becomes expensive to an organization. And as Business Central continues to grow and as more and more and more users, especially larger users, enterprise users, and others are now utilizing Business Central, that becomes a cost to the IT side of the house. And what the IT side is looking for are strategies to help manage that cost and get it into a situation where they have control over archiving and they have control over what can be done with it. And as Patrick pointed out, the more that you use it, the more that content becomes leverageable to the business. But at the same time, the IT side has to make sure that they have the ability to control it as well. So we're very cognizant of not only the office of the CFO and what this does for them in the ways that Patrick was speaking, but also how does it impact the IT side and their support for the infrastructure and what they're doing with it as such. So these are other things that come to play here, and another set of capabilities that ContentGate is introducing.
All right. Yeah, makes sense. And that really gets into the next topic I wanted to get into a bit, which is some of those practical challenges that the SignUp team is seeing when it comes to the connection between content management and producing financial reports and some of the other sort of performance analysis or ability to, I guess, answer to audits, any of those other sort of related scenarios where there are real challenges or pain points today.
Yeah, certainly controlling the content is the key. And whether it's with your audits, right, being able to streamline that, how do you manage that today? Organizations that we see clients that are storing documents and content still in banker boxes. Some clients store things in Business Central, great. But like I said earlier, you're storing documents and content to a specific screen, specific transaction that you're in, right? It's the time that it takes to gather all your documents, whether it is for a financial report that you want to see documents to or content, or it's for an audit, or maybe you have a vendor inquiry about something or a customer inquiry. You want to be able to look up documents. You have specs, you have engineering drawings, you can have contracts and different versions of contracts. So with ContentGate, our system allows you to store different versions of documents that are or content that are editable. Therefore, you can have different versions before they're finalized. Who could view different versions? You can have approval processes and track what's being signed, what's been signed. So you have full control over your content, the life cycle of that content, as well as linking them to, financial reports that you create. Do simple searches, be able to extract all the content and documents so you could view them in one simple view. Really streamlines your month-end closing process or year-end closing, makes it really easy for your auditors to access the documents and content that you provide them for your audits. At the end of the day, it's a huge time saver. You'll always know where your content is at through simple searches and retrieval. You could set up views for yourself. You can search across the multiple entities especially with financial report, as a CFO in the financial department, you want to be able to view and run reports across the different business entities and be able to collate and view documents related to that report, right? And that's where ContentGate can help you out dramatically.
Yeah, I'm just going to add one thing here too, and I think it's important to note that content in essence, as I said, can include many, many, many different types of content and material, and it can work across many, many different types of business lines and industry verticals and other things. But one of the things that comes to the forefront is the whole notion of risk. And by electronically putting this content under control, you're addressing a key component, at least as I view, and I know our company views what's happening in the office of the CFO, is management of risk and making sure that they have what they need when they need it, and that it's reliably stored and done in a way that helps not only keep the costs down across the organization, but in turn helps accelerate what the organization needs to do in a response to an audit that they're doing or some other type of activity. So it's really a wealth of different types of activities and things that are going on here that we're facilitating, but ultimately to the CFO, which is where kind of we're coming into this from. It's all about managing their risk. It's about making sure that they're containing costs and that they're putting their content to work for them when it's needed. And that's the beauty of what's being done here.
All right, excellent. I wanted to shift gears to talk about another, I guess, fairly practical point, and that's the value of SharePoint Online as it works into this story overall. I know just from having conversations with your team already that you see SharePoint Online as a really strategic element of record to report solutions for Business Central. SharePoint's something that everyone's familiar with. I think at one level or another, obviously you can become a full expert just in that, in competencies around that. But can you talk a little bit more about how it has become a strategic element of Business Central solutions?
Yeah. So with Business Central, with content and documents stored there within Business Central, if you're just using Business Central, you're actually, the cost of storage within Business Central can go up. You only have a certain amount of storage, or you purchase more storage. With SharePoint and ContentGate, we store everything through SharePoint, and a lot of our clients and a lot of the Microsoft folks are already using SharePoint. So that's a huge value just to leverage what you're already using. And with ContentGate storing things there, it really helps reduce any costs associated with Business Central and increasing costs there. So certainly the content management solution, it's SharePoint's the most well-known number one content management solution out there today. So certainly with SharePoint and all the folks in the Microsoft space knowing what SharePoint can do, that's where we store and manage our content. Bob, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, what I was going to say is that it also, when you think about SharePoint Online, and yes, it is the number one content management solution on the market today by far. What's really important there, and again, hearkening back to my comment about risk, from the perspective of the investments that companies are making now, we find SharePoint to be prevalent in pretty much every scenario that we come across. And they made that investment for the same reason that they invested in BC, and they also invested in Azure as far as a cloud solution is concerned, the security aspect of it. SharePoint is a very, very secure environment, and it allows you then to be able to search and to work with your content, but you can reliably be confident that it's in a secure environment and that you don't have to worry about it ever leaving or going away from that standpoint. Plus, because it is cloud-based, it can grow with your business as necessary. So it was a natural for us to look and choose to work with, that solution set. And it certainly makes Microsoft happy that we're doing that. But at the end of the day, why would you choose anything else?
Yeah. And I would just add just an anecdote on top of all of that, which is that in some recent conversations I was having and things I've been noticing when it comes to the AI realm, which I know is not the main focus here, but I've just noted that SharePoint Online really is a system that Microsoft is looking at for the future, in the sense of tying it into agents and copilots, making the content or the information within repositories really key for the future. And I think they see that as a big opportunity. So maybe just to add a bit of additional promise or something like that on top of it.
That's good, strong color there, Jason, because that's very, very true. It is the underpinning of what they're doing, as far as their approach to content and making it pervasive across their various applications and application families, in which Dynamics is part of that. So it is the right choice. And I very rarely, as I said, come across an opportunity. Patrick, I'm sure you'd say the same thing, where if you ask, they'll say, oh yeah, we got SharePoint. We work with it.
All right. Well, let me ask just to kind of, we've already talked about ContentGate, and I think that's really interesting. So a couple of kind of two-part question here. One, I would love to know a little bit more about the history or the background of ContentGate and bringing it to Business Central. I think is an interesting story, but also sort of what recommendations would you give Business Central users more generally to get started on advancing their content management, their record to report thinking?
Well, I'll take number one if you want to take number two, Patrick. From a number one perspective, which I believe was the background question, ContentGate came to us through an acquisition that SignUp did of a company called Extensions, which is very well known in the finance and operations market. In fact, going all the way back into the AX realm and predecessors thereof. Very, very strong company, one we're very, very proud of, and proud to have that team be part of our organization as we continue to bring those products to market in that space. But the ubiquitousness of content and what they did with ContentGate in that area was something that we saw as being universally attractive to what we could do in extending our solution set in the office of the CFO with Business Central. And so hence we did bring that across, and that's where we are with it today. And we're excited because as we announced this at Directions, we now can open up that door to customers who have been asking us for a long time. How do I get my content under control? And Patrick, I think that's where you can talk about how they can take advantage of it.
Yeah, certainly. Reach out to us. We're going to be at Directions. I'll have a presentation there as well on ContentGate with partners, working with partners, really getting the word out there to your clients that ContentGate is available, a solution that allows you to store and manage content in one central system. It's easy to deploy, it's inexpensive, and it allows you to manage all your documents and content in one central solution that's easy to access, easy to use, easy to link to your reports that you create within Business Central. It's secure. And that's why you should consider ContentGate and look at ContentGate for your clients. And certainly we'll be there to answer any questions and help you folks out.
Certainly, I would say you could test it too. I mean, that's something else that you could do, but I think you hit the nail on the head, Patrick. I mean, this seems like a no-brainer for organizations out there right now to snap this in and put that content under control and get it to work for them.
All right, excellent. Well, thanks for that history. I think it's super interesting personally to know that a product is sort of coming across from the AX and F&O world into BC. And I knew about the, extension acquisition, but always interesting to hear product updates from a team post acquisition and where some of those developments have gone. So thanks for that. Yeah, you mentioned Directions North America. Maybe before we wrap up here, it would be good to know a little bit more about SignUp Software's presence there. Bob, do you want to lead off on that one?
Absolutely happy to do that. We've been always a strong supporter of the event because it is a way for us to engage with partners and talk about the new things that we're bringing to market, while at the same time also rewarding, the partners who have done a phenomenal job in helping their customers unlock the needs of the office of the CFO. And we're going to be doing a couple of different things there. Not only are we a top level sponsor, so we'll be doing a keynote, we'll be involved in all of the various expos and other things where you can come learn about the product set and other items. But we're also conducting a Partner Day event that's going to take place on Sunday. And we're going to have Mark Stewart of Neural Impact come in and conduct a business selling session, helping partners understand how to get into the office of the CFO, because the office of the CFO, it's not an easy entrance. And that key is sometimes hard to get your hands on. Mark is excellent. Many of us know him from the past and working with him in other ways, but we're bringing this specifically for partners as a service to help those partners learn from him and put that to use in being able to get into the office of the CFO and build a long-lasting relationship and selling multiple products and doing other types of things. But during that Partner Day event, we're also going to be conducting a number of updates specifically around our platform. We're going to be introducing some of these solutions, such as ContentGate. The good news is we will be repeating these sessions at Directions. You heard Patrick talk about the one that he's going to be doing on content management inside of Business Central. So we'll be talking about that. We've got some updates to our Procure to Pay solution set, which includes our market-leading accounts payable solution. Also over in the order to cash area, sales order processing and those types of tools that we have and have made available. And those are also very, very successful. And we've got some updates for our travel and expense management solutions that we'll be bringing to the forefront. One really, really exciting one, Jason, that I'm really personally very happy about is we're going to be announcing an alliance relationship with a solution provider, McCorma. Now, you probably know McCorma pretty well out there. And McCorma is the leading payment solution provider for the market, built into Business Central, just like us. And we're going to be announcing that, and we're going to be doing some joint things with them there. So that's very, very exciting. And if you haven't gotten tired of listening to me already, do come to that main tent keynote that I'm going to get a chance to share with you what's happening in the market, why it's a problem, what the issues are, such as, for example, tariffs, for example, the other things that are happening. What is that doing to the office of the CFO and buying patterns? Why is risk a concern today? And listen to that, listen to some of the things that we're doing to address it. But most importantly, if you can be there on Sunday, stop into our Partner Day event and listen to Mark Stewart. I think you're going to learn a lot. But overall, big event for us. And we're very excited to be there. And we want to help every partner understand how to crack into the office of the CFO.
Very good. I look forward to getting a chance to hear some of those updates. Great to hear that you're building on the McCorma Alliance. And plenty to look forward to, which should be a great week at Directions. Well, I want to thank both of you for being here. I learned a lot personally about some of the ways that content management integration with Business Central feed into the record to report story. Thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, Jason, it's been a pleasure. Thank you again, and looking forward to seeing you at Directions very soon.
This has been another episode of the MSDW podcast. My thanks once again to Bob and Patrick for joining me. And this message from SignUp Software. If you want to learn more about SignUp Software, their products such as ContentGate for Business Central, and strategies for winning in the office of the CFO, join them for their upcoming Partner Day at Directions North America in Las Vegas on April 6th. For more information, you can also check out their website at www.signupsoftware.com. And that's it for this episode. If you want to get in touch with me, you can send me an email, jason@msdynamicsworld.com. For all of our updates, you can also follow us on LinkedIn. Until next time, this is MS Dynamics World, signing off.